In this video, we'll look at best practices to follow when building your site and working with the Content Management System, or CMS. We've compiled this list from tips offered by ServiceNow experts, partners, and customers. Here, you'll learn tips that apply both before building your site and while building your site. Click an item to go directly to that topic, or continue watching to cover all topics. Let's first talk about best practices to follow before building your site. We recommend assembling a team to oversee your project, as well as to bring different perspectives and expertise. Start by recruiting one or more administrators or developers with hands-on ServiceNow experience and strong HTML and CSS skills. Also enlist a user experience or UX designer to ensure that your site provides a great user experience and to make final decisions if your project team becomes deadlocked. Finally, be sure to invite some of the users who will be most active on the site. You can survey these users throughout the project timeline for their feedback on how well the site plan fits their needs. As a bonus, when you give users a voice in your project plans, they will become your greatest supporters. When you're ready to test your site once it's built, these users will make a great UAT team. Now, let's look at the planning and research we recommend that you undertake prior to building your site. Start by interviewing the user base to identify a list of requirements that may be mandated by the site currently in use. Next, develop a checklist of questions that will help you further define various aspects of your project. For example, what services will the site provide? What data and actions upon that data do users need? How will the data be consumed and navigated by users? What are the current pain points? Do we have company resources we can leverage? For example, corporate style guides, a marketing or design department, a company-specific front-end framework? Do we have a company software policy that restricts browser choices? What are the business needs the website must fulfill, and what will be the return on investment? Is site translation or localization a requirement? Will there be user or employee contributed content? Will commenting features be used? Would ratings and feedback be useful? When you've identified your site requirements and answered the questions on your checklist, you're ready to move on to our next best practice recommendation. You should identify and map the data sources and structure for your site. First, identify the ServiceNow system data that will be brought into the site, as well as data from any other sources. If you haven't already, map out all of the content for the site, including user-created content. This will give you an idea of how to provide the content to your users. For example, if you have only a few items in a certain category, you could list them on a page, whereas if you have a lot of items, you should make them searchable. Make sure the structure of the site, in other words, the categories and items, make sense. If you have a large site, users will find information more quickly by searching than by browsing. Speaking of searching, it's a good idea to find out what terms your users are searching on. You can do this in your ServiceNow instance by running a report on the top searches. From this report, you may also determine if your current searches are working. For example, is a phrase used by IT, such as XYZ, different from what users commonly use to search for that item or concept? And don't forget to look at how forms are set up within the system for capturing user-provided information. Use clear descriptions in items and record producers and incorporate pictures and icons. Only ask for information you need and pre-populate fields when possible. Notice that each of these form fields is pre-populated with the most commonly selected values. When you've analyzed all of these parts of the system, we recommend creating a prototype. Some types of projects are easy to visualize, but a site is typically not one of them due to the complexity. Enlist your project committee to create site maps and mock-ups of pages and show them to your stakeholders for feedback. We also recommend that you learn about the CMS in ServiceNow so that you can leverage it. Read the CMS pages of the wiki so that you understand how the system works. Also check out the product documentation at docs.servicenow.com. And be sure to check out the links at the end of this video for additional resources. When it's time to start building your site, try to use as much base system content as possible. ServiceNow continually updates base system pages, so you can reap the benefits of these changes with no additional effort on your part. For example, the Service Catalog especially has had a lot of enhancements on category pages, item and record producer forms, and checkout pages. As another example, the knowledge base pages in the base system provide search results and article view pages you can use. You can also apply styling to your site via the CMS themes, which control CSS. Although we recommend that you use the system fonts provided with an instance, note that you can also apply your own font to your site. You can do this several ways, which brings up another best practice. If you run into issues customizing your site, someone else may have already found a solution. The ServiceNow Community allows you to leverage the collective knowledge of ServiceNow experts and users, all in one easy-to-search website. Here we find instructions for uploading a true type font into CMS. If you want to undertake more extensive customizations, use a common front-end framework. For example, Twitter Bootstrap or Base. You can host the files in your ServiceNow instance, such as themes and style sheets for CSS or UI script for JavaScript files. You gain several advantages by using front-end frameworks versus developing code from scratch. Frameworks allow you to develop faster, and they can provide you with a responsive UI for different devices. We also recommend that you create a working master. If something breaks while you're making changes, you can always revert to the master copy. Here, we'll create a site template based on the ESS portal, which we'll use as a reference model. We'll copy the ESS site so that we won't be making changes to the original files. Having a copy solves that problem, but within the site template, how do you edit files without overwriting other users' changes? Versioning allows you to edit without fear of losing work, or of your changes conflicting with the changes of others also working on the same project. That's why we recommend turning on versioning for CMS items you want to protect. Here, we'll display versions for a header block by configuring related lists to display them. When we edit one of the fields in the header item and save it, a new entry appears in the Versions tab. At any time, you can revert to any of the previous versions. And here's our last best practice recommendation. Do not develop your site on a production instance. Always develop a site on a sub-production instance before migrating, via update sets, to production. This practice allows you to test, track down issues, and fix them prior to releasing the site on your production instance. Check out these additional resources for more details about best practices for building your site. For more information, please consult our product documentation, knowledge base, or podcast, or ask a question in the ServiceNow community.